You're not lazy, you're just afraid to be bad at something. If you've ever seen a side hustle or a project that you want to start, but you've hesitated or you've got stuck in a loop of watching YouTube videos about it and learning about it, but never actually started, then that's most likely a combination of your perfectionism and your brain fearing the unknown and trying to stop you from getting out of your familiarity, out of your routine. And that's something that really affected me and stopped me from, pursuing my interests, my passions, and the projects that I wanted to do for such a long time, until I figured out a 3-step method, which I use now to catch myself in that loop, break free from that loop, and start to make progress on whatever it is I want to start making progress on. So if you ever catch yourself in that loop of watching YouTube videos, you're like, maybe you want to start learning a new language or start writing a book. That was my one where I discovered this, was when I was trying to start writing a book. The first step that I advocate that you do, which is what I do and which is what's helped me, is to set a deadline for yourself. And I'm going to tell you what you do before that deadline and after that deadline. But the first step is just to set that deadline and set it in like a week or maybe a month maximum, but I'll say a week, maybe 2. And in that time, you're gonna indulge in that YouTube cycle. But the trick here is that because you've got a deadline, that indulgence is gonna be less of like a aimless indulgence and more of a focused learning. Because the problem if you don't have a deadline is that you're gonna go down this rabbit hole. You're going to realise there's so much information out there, you're going to get overwhelmed and you're not going to start. The thing is, the brain here is tricking you by giving you dopamine when you're watching videos into thinking you're making progress on that project. You're not making progress on that project, I'm sorry to say it. You aren't making progress. When you haven't started and you're watching endless videos, you're procrastinating. And the problem is you might be learning a thing or two, but because you don't have like a concrete base to attach what you're learning to, most of that information is going to go in one ear and out the other. So the best thing is to have that concrete base. If you want to, watch those videos, make sure you've started first. So yeah, give yourself a week, 2 weeks maybe. Indulge. What I did is I gave myself a week. I decided, starting next week, on Monday, I'm going to write the first bit of my novel. And, I've always wanted to be a writer, but I always put it off, and I was like, I'll never, complete it. I've never started. And this time I just said, I'm going to do it. So I started writing. And in that week, I found like a series of lectures, and I watched them, take notes, focus on what's important. And this is the point, is that you have a deadline, so you're forced to act in a more focused way, in a more deliberate way, and it's just far more beneficial. And this deadline is going to help because it's kind of like that 3, 2, 1, go. You just build up to it, and you might dread it when you're getting up to it, but you just have to stick to it. Maybe tell your friend or your girlfriend about it, or maybe your mum, or just write it down. Writing it down helps, because then you have a concrete evidence of your deadline that you're going to stick to. Step 2 is when you hit that deadline, to set the bar low and to start. So this is that just start thing. I've seen it all over YouTube, people just saying, just start. This is kind of my approach to this, is that 3 steps is easier than 1 step of just start. Set the deadline and then start with a low bar. The reason why you set the bar low is because your brain still doesn't want to do this. It's a huge change. Your brain doesn't want that change, the unknown, So when you set the bar low, it's achievable, a bite-sized chunk. So on that first day, it's not so dreaded. First day, don't release your YouTube video. The first day, don't write a whole chapter. My first day was, do 10 minutes of writing. And I did that as 10 minutes of planning for my novel. For YouTube, my first day was to outline what my first video is going to be. It was actually first a brainstorm, and then in that time I kind of just built some momentum, and then I outlined in my first video. And by setting the bar low, you are going to achieve it, and then make that into a habit. So step 3 is to build a habit and make that habit achievable and consistent and improvable. So what I did is I did the 10 minutes per day. I upgraded that after a week to an hour a day, but my minimum was still like half an hour. If I've done half an hour, I've achieved it, but I was doing an hour per day to feel like I've really, kick-started my new habit. And that's a really important thing as well. Even though you should go into it with a low bar, you should go into it with passion, and you probably will, because you've beat that first obstacle of starting, and you'll get the excitement, and you will start doing more. So what I did is I did an hour a day. And then what comes with that is that you are getting your reps in, and therefore you're improving. A lot of people don't want to start because they want to learn everything, and they want to make sure they start as good as they can. What you're doing by setting the bar low and building that habit is you're getting your reps in. And a lot of people don't want to do that because they want to get good and then start getting their reps in. But in reality, you get good by getting your reps in. And at first, that's all you need to do, is just start uploading, start writing, start learning the language, stop watching the videos and start doing. And you will find your niche, you'll find your voice, you'll find what you like, your routine, your systems, and you'll improve. And that will get better and better until you kind of hit a plateau. And at that point, you have to be a lot more deliberate and start doing what's called deliberate practice, which is focusing on one area of what you're doing. Because if you take, let's say, a professional footballer, a professional footballer doesn't go and play a football match on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to practice. He goes to the gym, they go to, do passing drills, shooting drills, they just go for runs, they do mental work, they watch back their game. And that's also crucial, is to reflect and be self-critical. Don't be a critic of yourself in a negative way, but analyze your work and figure out what the good things are and what things need improvement, and then work on the things that need improvement. This is where getting a coach can really help, because they can spot your blind spots and they can help you improve. And this is the best way to lean on those experts. It's not to start going down that rabbit hole again. It's either to do focused research on areas you choose, or to get an expert to help you to look at your work and identify your blind spots. And then by doing this, get your reps in, focus improvement, get 1% better every time. And if you're consistent, you are going to become one of those experts. This is how everyone does it. Well, this is how 90% of people do it. Like, you don't just go from not knowing anything to being an expert before starting. You go by being consistently, gradually implementing change and improvement and being authentic. And this is just the way that you're going to find your success, find your talent, find what you're trying to get. You're gonna actually do what you need to do. So yeah, those are my 3 steps. That's how I did it. That's how I started YouTube, started writing, got really into language learning, got back into the gym. All these things which I've put off, started, stopped, started. No, I just built a more realistic routine. Set the deadline, start easy, build a habit. And I hope that helps. If you're interested in starting a new project and you want to know how valuable being creative is, I have a video on why creativity should be your new habit over consumption, and that should be linked. So please watch that if you're interested. Leave a comment, whatever. Thanks for watching.